Hey guys, what's going on? So in the video today, I'm very excited because in today's video, I'm going to be talking about this new bag that I'm getting ready to ship off to my buddy George. He's a fellow boot collector and a friend of mine that I've talked to for quite a while now. He asked me to make him a wild blue bag. So I just finished this thing up. I'm getting ready to package it up and send it off to him over in Alaska. So that's going quite the voyage from here to there. This is an updated version of the wild blue. It's made of all Tasman leather from the Tasman tannery that I ordered from Acadia. So the body, the blue, is going to be cobalt blue Gen X leather, and then all the accessories and secondary components are going to be lemon drop Gen X leather. Both these are premium leathers. They're very tight grain, very nice for bags. One thing that I realized about these bags is, as you can see, they kind of stand on their own. They have a really good firm temper to them. I just made myself a bag out of natural Dublin leather, and I realized I'm gonna have to add lining to it. So I ordered a bunch of fabric, some cotton canvassing for lining, because it's kind of floppy. It doesn't stand up on its own. I don't really trust the natural Dublin. I should, but it's just kind of flimsy. It's just kind of floppy, very low temper, whereas this has a firm temper, which I really like. Additionally, it's a little bit thicker. So initially I felt a little bit guilty about not trying to line these bags made out of Gen X, but actually I realized from a technical standpoint, they are actually lined somewhat. So what I mean by that is they're thick enough. These are about 5.5 ounces. So they're thick enough that the leather itself sort of lines itself, if that makes sense. Whereas the natural Dublin, it's got such a squishy temper, as well as it's pretty thin. I want to say it's about 3.5 ounces, maybe 4 ounces. It will need a lining, I think. Different leather vendors like Maverick, they actually sell cotton lining as well as leather lining, which I think is interesting. And then you think about it, like, yes, boots, they use leather lining sometimes, like lambskin. Point is you could use different types of material for lining, and sometimes, like in this case with the Gen X leather, it comes with the lining built into that single layer of leather because it is so thick and it's got so much temper that the lining's already there. In the video today, I'm going to be talking about some of the differences between this wild blue and the wild blue that I made for myself. So as expected, as my leather craft sort of evolves and as sort of my knowledge base increases over time, I'm able to make a lot of upgrades along the way and just do some things that I think are better. For example, one of the big things that I found out about recently are leather washers. So what you do is you take a punch. I have various punches of this, about this size and smaller. This is the biggest one, I think. You punch leather washers out, just little discs of scrap leather, and then you use that to reinforce your rivets. On my bag, I don't have any of those. I don't have any leather washers on mine, but on George's, I put leather washers everywhere. It is an extra step. It's a little bit more work, and it's not necessary, like it's not mandatory, but it is good at giving back up to the rivets. Or on my original Chrome XL bag that I got on Etsy 3 years ago now, I used pop rivets on that instead of actual brass rivets, and one of the pop rivets popped off. They've held up very well, but just as far as reinforcements go and longevity goes, it's better to give as much padding and as much backup as possible, and that's where the leather washers come into play. They give a little bit more padding, and what I find with these rivets is a lot of it is secured on by tension. A lot of what keeps it sort of a good bond between two leather surfaces is the tension it creates. Adding a leather washer to that, it just puts more padding in there, more leather, more fibers in there, just gives a little bit more reinforcement that way. Aside from that, the design is pretty much the same except for this new outer cargo pocket that I designed myself. So ever since the get-go, you know, I intended to always use the simple outer flap like you see on mine, and I love the simplistic design of that. I wouldn't say one's better than the other. I just think that it's an aesthetic choice. It's a functional choice. This is quite a bit more work. Actually, it adds it probably takes me about 5 hours just to make this thing. So it is a lot of extra work. There's a lot of extra stitching involved. There's an extra strap, an extra buckle involved. There's a lot more involved in terms of securing it to the bag. So in this case, I secured it using 9 rivets, number 9 rivets, actually, the big thick ones on the back side of this. So you could actually stick your finger underneath it in certain areas, but it's very well secured with rivets all throughout here. again with the washers. On this style flap, I actually just stitch it down, and it's a little bit easier as long as I do it before I sew the whole bag together. If not, then I'm having to reach my hand in and sew, and that becomes a mess. I'm very happy with how this turned out looking. I've been working on the design for my leather shoulder harness. I designed a couple different pockets that attach through swivel snaps, and I wasn't so happy with how that turned out, so I designed a similar thing to this. What I do is I take one long strip of leather. It's like for the outer cargo compartment, to prevent putting as much labor into it as necessary. What I do is I take 8 inches width, about 24 inches in length. So you need a good chunk of leather. So what you do is the front folds, and you fold it, it leads into the back, and then it leads into this top flap. I'm not having to sew multiple compartments together. This accounts for 1, 2, 3, 4 different pieces, but you do it all in one strip. So I was happy with the design there. I kept it pretty simple, and then what I do is I do stitch in the side compartments. These are about 2-inch wide strips of leather, I think about 8 inches long. Yeah, I just stitch those in. Really, there's only 3 pieces to this outer compartment, which I'm happy with the design. Like I said, my goal was to keep things simple and streamlined, and even though this is a few extra steps, I do think that I achieved the streamlined design while looking good, while performing the same function. So I'm happy with this outer cargo compartment. I do think I'm going to be making more of these and implementing this into future designs, not just on bags, but on different things, harnesses and things like that. The back is, again, the tension distribution system, same as on mine. It's basically identical, aside from on his, he has the leather washers sort of backing up. In areas that I could use them, I use them on that. And then another cool thing with his was I was almost completely out of this cobalt blue Gen X leather, but I noticed that on the few pieces that I had left, I had just enough left for the body and these primary straps, but I got some cool numbers there that I was able to incorporate. I asked George, like, hey, do you want these displayed or do you want them hidden? What do you want? He said, leave it up to me for my design. And so I did that. And so I made sure that these numbers are on full display. I think it gives it a really cool look. Again, I didn't do this. The tannery did this. Tasman did this. So I think it's really cool, incorporating, similar to like how different companies incorporate like the Horween stamp into their boots and into the wallets and bags. I like to incorporate little signatures from the tannery just so it reminds you of where it came from. And so for that reason, this is facing outward in order to display the tannery's mark on there. And then double enclosure straps. Again, I really like the look of the double enclosure strap. You can see here, I did double stitching. So the lemon drop is double stitched flat to the cobalt blue Gen X, whereas on mine, I had inverted seams. I think the inverted seams, it allows me to do chain stitching on the inside. Again, this is sort of getting into the weeds. One way is not better than the other. It's just a design thing. Either way, there's no big difference. It's just an aesthetic difference. My idea as of a storm welt at the aperture of the bag, I think it looks really good, as well as it serves two functional purposes. So this strip here, it's about 3/8 inches wide, and it's stitched all the way around the top. It lends support to these 4 seams so that they don't ever rip, not that they would, because I really do a lot of reinforcement stitches, but this just gives an extra piece of leather, really fortifies the aperture, and then also it gives you something to grip as you're rolling shut the roll top. And then on his, I actually did a little bit of an improvement as well in terms of the carry handle. So on mine, I sort of left the carry handle pretty loose. On George's here, his carry handle is very tight. So I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, you can see my carry handle, it's kind of loose. It's like flappy, but on his, it's like pretty cinched down. I think moving forward, I'm gonna keep them sort of cinched down. But again, one's not better than the other. It's just a design difference. That is it. This is my Wild Blue version 2.0. I'm happy with how it turned out. And as well as I decided that moving forward, I think as a complementary thing with my bags, I think I'm gonna start incorporating either a triple wrap or a double wrap bracelet free of charge, as a compliment, just as a bonus for entrusting me with your orders and your money, and to thank you for being a customer. I do intend to start throwing these bracelets in. As you can see, I'm wearing a Cobalt Blue Gen X double wrap myself. I pretty much have the design down. It's pretty simple. It takes me about 15 minutes to make one. They're easy to make, and typically what I have is I have scraps laying around that I could use to make this with. So it's just another couple steps to make one, and this way I figure each customer will have a bracelet that will match their bag that they could wear with the bag or without the bag, you know, it's up to you. But in this one, since George paid me a little extra, I threw in 2 for him. One of them, this is going to be a triple wrap Lemon Drop Gen X bracelet, and then this is going to be a double wrap Cobalt Blue Gen X bracelet. And as you can see, the keeper on each is the opposite. So he's got a blue keeper on the Lemon Drop and a Lemon Drop keeper on the Cobalt. I think it's just a good way to thank customers and to throw in a little bonus for ordering one of my bags and giving me support. I thank you from the bottom of my heart, honestly. It is so much fun making this stuff. It is such a joy to do it. I'm having a really, really good time doing it. I do hope to continue making bags and designing things, and I've got a lot more updates coming up in the future, so stay tuned for that. So anyways, what do you guys think about this bag? How did I do? You can follow me on Instagram. My username is AeroSurferLV. Stay tuned because I got a lot more videos coming up. Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and I will see y'all in my next video.